I'm glad I overheard so I could run up and chat with you. I think it's a big deal to do that. I think that there are so many salons and so many businesses in general that the way that they act toward people is like they're cooler when they seem offish. Like, if I just turn my nose up a little bit, you're going to think I'm a better person. No, it just kind of makes you a jerk. And I think that the more we can actually interact with each other and be real, the better off we are, not only at the salon, but in every scenario.
Welcome to a Motivational Monday, conversations with me, David Ibarra, and my guest, Randy Topham from the Cake Hair Salon. Randy, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I want to talk, first of all, how we met. Randy, you have been doing my hair for 20 years. Would that be exaggerating?
Probably at least 15.
15? And I can remember that when I needed to replace my stylist, I decided to just go for a walk within all the salons in this area around my office downtown. So I went into some and asked if I could see the lead stylist. And do you know how many would talk to me, Randy?
How many?
About zero. And then I came into the Cake Hair Salon, and you were busy. You heard what I asked for. You walked over, said a couple of things. We exchanged, and I made my best choice in hair care in my life, the Cake Hair Salon.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you joined us. Glad you came in the door. I'm glad I overheard so I could run up and chat with you. I think it's a big deal to do that. I think that there are so many salons and so many businesses in general that the way that they act toward people is like they're cooler when they seem offish. Like, if I just turn my nose up a little bit, you're going to think I'm a better person. No, it just kind of makes you a jerk. And I think that the more we can actually interact with each other and be real, the better off we are, not only at the salon, but in every scenario.
In every interaction in our lives, for sure. I want to go back and first tell me about how is it that you got into the profession you did. Tell us about the start. Let's start there.
It's going to sound funny, but I think a lot of the biggest things that have happened to me in my life, the biggest things that changed my world and the way that I am and the directions I'm going, they've kind of just happened. I just had to be open to them. So I was always good at hair. I had a grandpa that was a barber, and I watched him work, and I thought, you know what? I want to try that. So when I was about 16, I did my first haircut. At the time, I thought it was fantastic. I'm sure it was terrible, but at the time, I thought it was great, and I thought it was fun. At that time, I also became a club kid. So I was going to dance clubs all the time, and I would go over to a friend's house, style all the girls' hair before we would go out, and half the time do their makeup too. And they were always saying, oh, you need to be a hairdresser. You need to be a hairdresser. I'm like, no. So I had no interest in it. I've always been kind of an introvert. I'm more
That's
comfortable.
hard for me to believe. You've always been an introvert. Okay.
Well, you know me professionally. And professionally, I'm not saying I'm insecure. And I'm not saying I'm socially awkward. I'm just saying I recharge my battery when I have alone time.
Yeah.
I recharge my battery by just being by myself, reading a great book or doing an art project. I don't recharge my battery by being around other people. With that said, I enjoy people's company. I enjoy all of that. But the idea of doing that for a living and constantly being around strangers intimidated me.
So when did you start professionally deciding that that's what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to school. Where was that at? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
So it really did basically happen by accident, and that sounds so weird, but it was something that I had in the back of my mind because everyone was always telling me that I should do it. But you see what my challenges were with it. I planned to be an artist. So fine art, it's always been a big hobby of mine. And I had scholarship offers to several of the best art colleges in the nation. But even with those scholarship offers, it's expensive to live somewhere, and a lot of them are in more expensive cities. So I thought, I need some way of making money while I go through art school. So I asked the Colorado Institute of Art if they would still hang on to my scholarship offer, give it to me the next year. They said, we actually love that you want to do that because it shows you're being responsible. And a friend of mine said she was going to start hair school. So I thought, well, I'll start with her. And because I had a buddy, it was not as scary. So I started. She dropped out 6 weeks later. She was just there long enough to get me going, and the rest is history.
And she said that was her sole purpose. Was she dedicated 6 weeks just to get you in so she could drop out and say, Randy, you owe me.
There you go.
What school did you go to?
I went to a school that doesn't exist anymore. It was a school down in Provo. It was called Dallas Roberts. Where Dallas Roberts is now the Aveda Institute. And it's down in Provo.
Now tell me, how long is the school? What is the criteria? How long does it take to become a hairstylist?
Well, that's changed a couple of times. Back when I did it, it was 28 years ago, so it's been a little while. Don't do the math because I still claim to be 25, so it gets harder for that to work. But back then it was 2000.
Particularly now that you spilled the beans.
Messes it up a little. I started that means I started hair school about 29 years ago. And it's about 1 year, at least it was back then, and it was 2,000 hours. Then they've lowered the time requirement a couple of times since then. And then now there are some other options. That's not full cosmetologist. You can do that, or you can specialize in just hair, which would have been better for me because, trust me, you don't want me touching your nails or giving you a facial. Neither one is a good choice for me.
I'll remember to not ask you to do either when I come in every other week to have you try to make the best you can out of this head of hair of mine. You know, we have something in common in that my father was a hairstylist, and Dad came to the country as a migrant worker. Then he wanted a union job, and he got a job at Kennecott in the mining, and he was on the powder gang where they lowered you over, you drill a hole, fill it full of dynamite, and they pull you back up, and went into the service, came back, and had the GI Bill, and they asked him to bring everything that he was interested in. So he bring his art. And Dad used to do women's hair and face, and he was really good. And they said, you ought to be a hairstylist. So I always kidded my dad. He went from bombs to bangs and owned the Mona Lisa House of Beauty for over 39 years and was a very successful stylist as well. Now, not only, so you started to work. Where did you start to work? How many shops did you work at before the idea came, I need to own my own shop?
So the first salon I worked at, it was open for about 2 years of my career, and then it closed. So at that point, I moved to another salon where I stayed for 7 years. And then at the end of that is when I opened my own salon.
Now, when you first opened your salon, you had a partner, I believe.
I did.
And how long did that last?
So that was another situation that kind of fell in my lap. I actually didn't want to be a salon owner. I wasn't opposed to it, but it wasn't something I was looking for. But the situation just came up. The reality is I was working in a salon that I was no longer happy, and I had a couple of clients say, Randy, you've outgrown this salon. Why are you still here? And I think when a client says that to you, it means something. But the problem is there wasn't a salon that fit what I wanted. There wasn't a salon that fit my vision. So the biggest reason why I wanted to be a salon owner is because I felt like I needed control over that. So an opportunity fell into my lap to go to a salon in Salt Lake. I had been working in Provo and be the artistic director. So I did that. And as I started up there, one of the two founding members, it was an explosive situation, and he left, and then I became a partner right away. I stayed that way for about 2 years. Then I bought out my business partner. I was much more into the idea of the salon and into what we were doing than he was.
And he was in the food business, wasn't he?
He was, yes.
Yeah. And he had the Italian restaurant that no longer is in business, but right across from City Hall.
Yes.
What was the name of that?
Canella's.
Canella's, that's right.
And then he later also owned Taco, but it shut down as well, maybe a year ago or less. So.
Well, I'm sorry that he seems to be in a groove. I shouldn't make humor of that. It might come back at me. But at any rate, tell me, you were the artistic director? What does that mean?
Yes. So a lot of organizations, salons or companies will have an artistic director or a creative director. So that's someone that handles the development of staff or the development of just all things hair. So you're in charge of teaching people their expertise in cutting, coloring, finishing, whatever the case may be.
So coaching, encouraging, and developing the stylists to be an artist.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Now, that leads me into something that you started to do with Redken. Share with me what you do with Redken all across this nation. That's, by the way, one of the things that really intrigued me about wanting you to be my artist on my hair was because of what you do nationally.
And I think that for some people, they love what I do nationally. For some, it's kind of a pain in the butt because my schedule gets a little bit tough.
It does.
But, yeah. But the reality is it does make me better at what I do. I feel like the two play off of each other. So what I do with Redken is I started locally, teaching local classes. This is teaching other hairdressers a new color technique or teaching them about our products, just to give them a little bit more knowledge behind the chair. I've always been really passionate about education. To me, it's such a big deal. I also think that's why I can be 28 years into a career and love it, love every minute of it as if it was my first day.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think the biggest deal there is the education. Constantly staying on top of your education is how you stay happy in your career. And so I not only want to live that, and I believe in that really strongly, but I want to help to show that to everybody else. So I've loved my career with Redken. I love the opportunity to coach other people, give them something that will help them to be happier as a hairstylist and to be more successful.
Now, what exactly is that position with Redken?
So I started as a Redken artist, and like I say, when I began, it was locally, and I taught a lot, like maybe 110 classes a year. And then after so many years of that, I started to travel quite a bit. You know, you slowly build your name and you start to travel more and more. And the venue changes from maybe 3 or 4 people. Sometimes it's still small groups, but sometimes it's larger groups as well. So the largest I've facilitated a program for was 6,000.
Right, that's on the big stage.
Yeah, that's the big stage with the great big screens on either side of you. You're like, wow, I look weird that big.
At what age do you wish you had unlocked the principles that lead to success? Where do you think you'd be today if you had learned them as a child? Yes, Our Kids Can is a program developed at Harvard and tested in San Antonio's school systems, designed to give children of all backgrounds the opportunity to plant the seeds for future success, using learning techniques they understand and enjoy. Through engaging animated stories, fun sing-along songs, and interactive games, Yes, Our Kids Can teaches your child the empowering, success-driven principles needed to reach their full potential. Don't miss this opportunity to give your children the future they deserve. Yes, Our Kids Can is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Sign up today and help make your child's dreams a reality.
How often are you traveling, and normally where do you travel to do these shows? What cities?
You know, they can be anywhere. So I travel an average of 3 times a month. I always say I'm going to do 2, but like you, I'm kind of an overachiever. So I try to plan for 2, but then something else comes along. I'm like, nope, it just sounds like too much fun. I need to take that one as well. So I usually travel, 3 times a month. And sometimes it's big cities, and sometimes it's teeny little towns in the middle of nowhere or anywhere in between the two. There's really no rhyme or reason, and I love all of it. It's fun to go to small towns and work with people that maybe haven't experienced some of the things that I have.
But you go from New York City quite often?
I do. I would say maybe 10 times a year I'm in New York City. That's where Redken is based out of. Our headquarters is there. We have an advanced academy there. It's the #1 advanced academy in our industry, not just for Redken, not just in the nation, but it's the #1 advanced academy in the world.
Now, when you say advanced academy, is that training in person, or is that any of it virtual as well?
Great question. It can be either. Sometimes we do combo, so some people can watch something virtually, but it's an in-person program. They're hands-on classes. And when it comes to actually, kinesthetic learners or people that really need to get their hands in it, you'll learn much better in the experience. So it's a hands-on place. So tickets are expensive, but you also get way more than you would expect. You're having
what
a
is
hands-on
the average
class.
ticket cost to attend one of the Academy classes featuring you?
I haven't looked recently, to be honest, but last I looked, it was $1,600 or $1,800.
Times 6,000 people in attendance?
No. For a hands-on class, it's nowhere near that. We max out at 70 to 80 people, something like that.
Wow, now I know why Redken is in the talent development business. It's profitable. That's good. And it helps move their line, and it helps create talented folks that can retain a clientele. Now, you do something way different from any salon that I've ever been to, in that, tell us a little bit about your apprentice program.
Oh, so when I was first out of school, I thought that I knew a lot. And, in fairness, I had worked hard while I was in school. I did know a lot, but there was a lot I didn't know, too. And I did an assisting program. A lot of commission-based salons have an assisting program. And I really think that that's what sets stylists up for success. You can learn great theory when you're in school, but you really don't understand what it is until the rubber hits the road. You really need that practical experience, and you get that in a salon. So I assisted in the salon in the beginning. I had some of my own clients. I was a commission employee, but I also assisted, and I learned a lot of great stuff. I learned what to do, and I learned some of what not to do. But I think it's a big deal to nurture these new stylists as they come out of school and give them the tools and the tricks they need in order to really succeed. It's kind of like a lot of professions that include some kind of an intern program.
So in majority of the cases, for somebody to join you at the Cake Hair Salon, they first must mentor with you, apprenticeship, and watch what you do. And since I'm there every other week, I hear you explaining why you're doing something with hair, why you're doing something with color, why you're doing X, and they're just like spot on. How long normally does it take before somebody has earned the right to now have their own chair?
It's another great question. It really varies. It varies greatly, and it's all based on ambition more than anything, honestly. Are they dedicated enough to the work that they're doing, and are they being ambitious? So a lot of stylists, a lot of salons have a specific time frame. It's an assisting program is 1 year, or it's 6 months, or it's whatever. In our salon, it varies. And it's because we're going at the pace of the learner, not at the pace that we want them to be going. So if they're ambitious, if they're working hard, they'll make it through faster. Sometimes they're through 3 months. We also had one that took over a year. So it varies a lot.
And then they're in their own chair, and you have a different price structure as well. Tell us about that and why that is important for people to know. You can have this price or you can have this price. What do you get for the difference?
Well, if you think about it this way, someone that's been doing hair for 6 months is going to charge differently than someone that's been doing hair for 28 years. That's just it's a logical thing. Really, what it's based on is it's based on knowledge, expertise, and clientele. So I, of course, have a full clientele. To see a new guest, it's usually taking them 6 to 8 weeks to even find a spot to be able to come in to see me. Where for someone else, they are maybe at the beginning of their career and they need their price point to be lower to encourage more people to come in.
And it also has something to do with their knowledge that you certify them to go to the next level. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. So new talent has just made it out of our assisting program. And then we have a level system from there. So there are a total of 6 levels that you can move up through. In order to become a level 2 stylist, they actually have to go take a test that's usually done in New York. It's called Redken Hair Color Certification. And it's a really tough test that shows that they know what they're doing in the world of hair color. The pass rate is between 50 and 60%.
Wow.
And that's people that have studied and practiced and gotten ready for the test. So it's not an easy test.
Well, you don't want anyone to have their hair messed up that visits the Cake Hair Salon.
Absolutely.
And that's why you do it in the way that you do it. Tell me, now you went from hairstylist, you have your own business, but then you decided that may not be enough. You wanted to own your own building. Tell me about that process.
Well, we threw money away on rent for 11 years, and I decided that was enough. By the end of that 11 years, our lease payment every month had tripled, and I thought, okay, I need to be getting into this and own a building. I've always tried to live below my means, so I've always been better at saving. For example, when I bought the first half of my salon, I paid cash for it. I didn't get a loan at all. The second half, I did get a loan, but I had it paid off within 5 years.
Excellent.
And then in buying the building, I took all of my savings and put it toward the building, and I think it was money well spent.
Well, you're right across from the Audi building on State Street in Salt Lake City. And the building you bought, well, it wasn't exactly, it was an eyesore.
Yes, it was.
But it is no eyesore today. As a matter of fact, it was so well done, the building that was attached to it is equally as nice, and that whole area is beginning to go through a transformation. And you were like one of the first. Is that right?
Yes. I will say, I think one of the things that I really focus on is not what something's like now or what someone is like now. I look at potential. And I'm good at seeing potential, and I saw the potential of the place. So it had been like a car place. I'm not really good with cars, but it was like a pimp your ride kind of place. They did the hydraulics, the whatever, like that stuff. So there was no air conditioner. There really wasn't a central like heater. It didn't have any interior walls. It had two of the ugliest bathrooms I've ever seen in my life. We knocked all that down, did a massive remodel. It's 2,400 square feet with tons of natural light. It's bright, it's cheery, it's beautiful, and it's an amazing space that I enjoy working in.
And it's really upscale in its look, its feel. So you did an incredible job. I want to shift a little bit. So you're a business owner. You are a artist and one of the top tier trainers, instructors, talent development artists for Redken National. And you also are a landlord. You own your own building. God, what possibly more could you do? Let's talk about painting. I happen to know that I was surprised and that you were involved in this surprise. One of my clients, K.O. Murdoch, wanted to give me something, I think, for my birthday, and he commissioned you to do an incredible art piece for me. And then I've seen a lot of your other art. Tell me about the technique you use in your paintings, and where did that come from?
Well, I use a lot of different techniques in different situations. Just like behind the chair, some people focus on blonding or brunettes or reds or barbering, whatever it is. A lot of people have a focus. I don't have a focus. I want to work on the curliest of curly and the straightest of straight. I want to work on blondes, brunettes, reds. What I want in my life is variety, and you can see it in everything that I do. Same thing in the painting world. I love to draw. I love to paint. I have since I was about 12. But I use a lot of different techniques. The technique that I used on yours is kind of an exaggerated pointillism. So it's larger dots made out of paint to create a specific look or feel. And sometimes it's little dots like in yours. And sometimes it's more like I'll use thumbprints or fingerprints and do larger versions of that. Sometimes I do completely classic traditional art, and sometimes I do things that are a little bit more modern, but I like to change it up a lot.
Well, you've got some one that's a buffalo, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just and you look at it and you get really close and you realize it's all done in dots, as is mine. And that was the first time I felt comfortable that my face was full of dots. I want to thank you for doing that with Ko, and it was really a surprise. It represented a story that he told you about the things that I'm passionate about: family, community, wealth, and faith. And you nailed it on this painting that I'm going to ask Nick, our producer and director, to make sure that he shows it in the background as I talk about it. A lovely piece of art, and I wanted to thank you. I also want to thank you for all of the time you spent on my hair. And I'll tell you, how do people access the Cake Salon?
You can give us a call, of course. That's an easy way to get in touch with us. Or you can also go to our website and check us out there.
And that's
cakehairsalon.com.
Perfect. Well, Randy, I want to thank you, for all you do to try to keep me looking as best I can, and give you a gift for being on our program today, a copy of my book, Live Ready, Beyond, Think and Grow Rich. And thank you for your friendship, and thank you for being on our program today.
Thank you.